Okay, so we are back with journal entry number 4, and the main topics that I will be discussing today deal with conflict and emotional identification of the character. Now, these are two general important um, topics, I think. To some stories, I wouldn't say everything about media, but I will say just to some stories like conflict. Almost every movie has to have conflict, that's a guarantee, but sometimes there are movies out there that don't really focus on that. They try to steer away from it. For example, comedic movies sometimes do that. And emotional identification of a character, it's important specifically for that one because we look for that in a character and an actor to kind of resonate and have relatability to them with whatever's going on. So the film I selected, the general impressions I've had with it, it's a really dark but kind of also realistic film that focuses on, teachers possibly having these relationships with students. But this one kind of twists it in a very dark way, but at the same time, it has happened. So it really is a cool movie from one of my favorite actors, Mads Mikkelsen, a really awesome actor. So I was really impressed with how realistic yet dark and emotionally conflicted I was with the film. So the main definitions today for conflict, a conflict is generally described as a force that characters have to kind of overcome or face throughout the film to get from point A to point B and to kind of learn a lesson maybe from it or to kind of push it to the side and deal with it later in the third act of the film. And they generally come out with good or bad resolutions because of it. And emotional identification, when in the film, when in film, characters and actors have to be aware of their effective responses to certain situations. So we as the audience can kind of get a deeper meaning into what's going on with them, how they're thinking, how they're feeling. And by doing that, you have an emotional relevancy with those characters. And that's really one of the main goals that any actor or director should do when making a film. Um, the main purpose of these concepts is it really adds character and validity to a film. They really kind of resonate as well with society about how we have conflicts every now and then, not only just like in the bigger world, but also with each other. And that's something that really, really resonates even today with how you can't just escape conflict. You have to face it or let it run over you and control everything in your life. And you can very well see this in films, whether it's a superhero versus a villain, whether it's a man like struggling with alcohol and depression, or a woman struggling with suicidal tendencies in films. Like it's just something that you can identify and understand because it's probably happened to you or someone that you know, and it's really easy to resonate with it. Um, there are a lot of advantages to it that they can make for great films, and they can have an emotional and effective relevancy on a person. But one of the disadvantages of conflict is that you really don't understand, like in films where like, oh, so the conflict comes up and it's gone, and we're not going to mention it, and it's weird. It's really weird that some films do that, but with emotional identification, um, yet again, it's something that gives you relevancy and relatability to a film where you identify these characters emotionally, and at the same time, but at the same time, it can be bad because it can change your opinion about how you see certain things in the real world. And the best way to implement this is always, like I said with previous videos, like always focus on your characters and their emotions, so we as an audience can be relatable to them. And conflict, it can be put in however you want, but at the same time, there's a lot of baggage that you have to do with that. So the film I chose is called The Hunt, and it's about a kindergarten school teacher who is accused of having a relationship with a student in kindergarten. So the whole film is how you see people turning against him when he's trying to prove his innocence, and how spoiler alert, but I mean this movie's been out for a while, so I mean how come you haven't seen it? Um, you really get the sense that once he's cleared of it, nobody just cares about it anymore. They just put it away, and it's just like, but look at all the stuff you've done to him. Like that doesn't go away. So it's a really credible film that presents conflict that way, where it's man versus society. How one little rumor about somebody and society just crumbles down and crashes on them and attacks them like wild dogs until it's proven innocent or guilty. And even then, no matter what the results are, you're still going to be looked down upon, even when you're innocent. And the film really also does a good job of showing emotionally how this has affected this character and his life. Like it's essentially damaged him, and it also follows other characters trying to pick up the pieces where we kind of put this on him, and this isn't good. We need to fix this. So the movie succeeds in those ideas, and I really didn't see any way that it failed in resonating with the character, because Mads Mikkelsen also does a good job of portraying both the conflict and emotional identifications throughout the entire film. So I felt like they did a good job. The best elements, I would say, I'd say the whole thing. Like it really does a good job of showing you a teacher trying to clear himself and the aftermaths before and after what happened. I will say that the female love interest that comes in here, like I felt like her ending was a little weird, like considering all that has happened. But other than that, I'd say the film was really good and really enjoyable so far. So how I use these in the writing process, yet again, you got to use them from the beginning. You got to understand your character and how emotional you are to them and how you can make them in a conflict that really should resonate with how you feel in society and how it could be relatable to people, the average Joe just watching. So I would say that learning from this film about how conflict can also make you mad. Like conflicts either way, man versus society, man versus himself, it can tick you off about how stuff like this can actually happen. And it's a good way of showing that's the real world, and it's really tough. I feel like there are other films and TV shows out there that really do a good job of handling conflict in the way that most media sees it. Like Marvel films, they handle conflict very well, and also emotionally responding to characters that you can understand and relate to. And I will say my insights are these were some very good choices that I found, topics that I believe really resonate hard with the world, and they just do so well with this film. So, conflict and emotional identification of a character really is important too. And conflict is up there in terms of when you're writing a story, this has to be a focus. This has to be something you have to think about even before you write a script. This is when you're just brainstorming. And I will say that to watch The Hunt, it is a very good film. It really does a good job of portraying an innocence, a conflict, and an emotional powerhouse response to issues like that. My citation is Davis Ribb of Past and Present and Struggle and the Emotional Journey. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.